This video is about the story of a carpenter, blacksmith, locksmith, call him whatever you want, because the guy is literally a jack of all trades. Everyone treated him like a zero, but he ended up becoming the greatest hero in another world. Saitou was a typical loser. He worked in a small company where his boss mistreated him by whipping him, and on top of that, he paid him very poorly, something quite common here in Brazil, but he is Japanese, and there it is a little worse, even though they earn more than us. And while living a completely unmotivated and meaningless life, Saitou began to wonder if this is really what he wants for his life. So one day, while he was returning home, the famous Kuan truck decided to enter the story and take him to a completely different world full of wizards, warriors, and magical creatures. Right away, Saitou realizes that surviving in this place isn't that hard, since he doesn't have to work 7 to 7 shifts or even work 9 to 5. But then comes the surprise, because in this world everyone is busy killing monsters, and the fact that Saitou is a man who can fix anything makes him a true god. He quickly ends up joining a very peculiar group of adventurers who need his help for one of their unusual missions. The team includes Rielza, a very strong but somewhat shy warrior, and Lafa, a short healer who looks cute but turns into a monster when she uses magic. The Morlock, an old and super powerful wizard, but who keeps forgetting how to use his own spells. In this group, Saitou's skills finally come in handy. He helps carry boxes, repairs equipment, and even organizes the team's stuff to make traveling easier. Everyone realizes how valuable he is, and Saitou, for the first time, starts to feel valued, which is a huge change compared to his old life. One day, a random man sells a low-quality sword to a shop owner. He buys it for 18 gold coins, and Saitou, upon examining the sword, realizes that it is a very good sword, worth up to 300 gold coins. He believes that he can repair it with his skills. The next day, they are in a hidden cave facing a group of red monsters, and the Morlock, who should be helping, only gets in the way. And when things get ugly, Rielza appears to save Saitou and the Morlock, killing the monsters with her giant sword. And after this fiasco, Saitou realizes that he has been a burden to his friends, since his scavenger mentality does not fit in with the brutal and magical world where they live. So, determined to change, he decides to learn everything about the Morlock's spells in a few days, and thus he begins to be more useful in the missions, reminding the old man of his spells. Later, during a struggle to open a mysterious box, the cave begins to collapse. Saitou ends up falling and injuring himself. He hurts his knee and is left bleeding. Unable to move, he begins to be tormented by memories of his miserable life. He becomes convinced that his companions will abandon him right there. But, to his surprise, Rielza, the Morlock, and Lafa appear, running in panic to save him. They make it very clear that they will never abandon him, because he is an irreplaceable being. These words fill Saitou's heart with a happiness he had never felt before, something that many people watching this video have never felt. The next day, there they are, facing a bizarre sea monster full of heads and slime called Unagi. There was no need to name this thing. Rielza is already freaking out, because she can't handle a creature covered in slime touching her. Meanwhile, the Morlock casts a magic spell on Unagi, distracting the monster, and Saitou takes the opportunity to attack with his sword, finishing off the creature. Then, he puts his evil boss skills to use and turns the monster's flesh into a cooked dish, and the moment he serves it, everyone is completely mesmerized by the incredible flavor. Soon, they start insisting that Rielza try it too, and when she finally takes a piece, we realize that she has entered a state of pure happiness, and before she knows it, she devours it all like a good girl. After dinner, they continue their missions. Now in a mysterious cave, they find a mysterious box, but suspecting that it might be a trap, they decide to leave it behind. Then, further on, they find another box, and Saitou uses his tools to open it, revealing something made of metal. But that's how he manages it. A disgusting green liquid falls straight onto Rielza's armor, corroding metal and revealing her curves. Everyone is a little embarrassed, because they thought she would be a horrible monster, but she's actually beautiful. They decide to move on, but suddenly, the Morlock feels a sharp pain in his neck. He asks Lafa to use her magic to help him, but the clever fairy demands a gold coin in exchange. And since the Morlock is a smooth old man after having lost all his money gambling, Saitou offers to pay for it. Then, curious, Saitou asks Rielza why Lafa always acts like a mercenary. Rielza takes Saitou to Lafa, and he realizes that the fairy is offering a gold coin to the moon. And when asking about this strange ritual, Rielza explains that Lafa is a moon fairy, and despite her sweet appearance, her species was cursed by the moon goddess. Then, if they don't offer gold coins regularly, their bodies start to shrink. Rielza tells them that the moon fairies used to live on the moon, but were banished and sent to Earth by the evil goddess. As he heard, Saitou offers to pay Lafa's debt with his own salary, but Rielza says that the moon fairies are proud and would never accept charity. The next day, Saitou opens another box, but it activates a teleportation trap that throws him and Rielza to the lowest floor of the Great Labyrinth. Luckily, Morlock and Lafa are unaffected, as their bodies are immune to magic. Suddenly, a huge iron golem appears before them. Rielza asks Saitou to stay behind her and run away if things go wrong. She advances with her sword, but the golem quickly gains the upper hand. Even though she is injured, Rielza insists that Saitou escape, but he gathers courage, jumps on the golem and pours a liquid of molten metal on him. In a final attack, the golem throws Saitou to the ground, leaving him seriously injured, and Rielza continues to fight, desperate, while begging for help from Lafa and the Morlock. At that moment, she remembers a miraculous potion that the Morlock once gave her, called the Drop of Life. So, without Without thinking twice, Rielza takes the potion and with a kiss, she transfers the liquid to Saito, healing his wounds. Some time later, Saito wakes up and finds everyone anxious around him. Lafa jumps with joy when she sees him awake and tells him how Rielza saved her life, which leaves our super strong warrior completely embarrassed. The next morning, Lafa takes Saito to explore the strange world he has arrived in, and the first stop is a marriage consultancy. Saito is surprised to discover that even in this magical world there is an office that specializes in helping people with arranged marriages, and Lafa tells him to keep it a secret because things in this realm can be even more shocking. She explains that the realm is very peaceful, and that with the increased use of weapons and magic, women have gained much more independence, being able to go on adventures. However, with the treasures in the labyrinths practically exhausted, many men have less income, which has ended up making marriages much more difficult. She then asks Saito to take another look at the marriage consulting office, and he is left speechless when he recognizes the old Morlock trying to find a wife. At that moment, Rielza appears, interrupting the scene, while the marriage consultant lets out a sigh of relief. Lafa, soon after, takes the opportunity to explain that the advancement of magic has greatly increased the longevity of the population, which has ended up generating a great demand for elderly caregivers, something that has been a huge problem. And in this respect, this world is similar to Japan, because no one there wants to have children, as the working conditions are horrible, and people also tend to live a long time. Unlike Brazil, where a poor woman has an average of 12 children during her life. Now the next mission takes the group back to the caves, where they meet an enigmatic fairy, famous for her enchanting eyes. As soon as Saito approaches, the fairy casts a spell, making him fall madly in love with her. Under the spell, Saito begins to act strangely, changing from a reserved demeanor to a lively and carefree demeanor. Rielza watches the scene with suspicion, seeing Saito getting closer and closer to the seductive fairy, and feeling her anger grow, she decides to take action and advances against the fairy with her sword in hand. The fight is intense, and Rielza is overcome by her unusual fury. Fortunately, she forces the fairy to flee in despair. However, the spell is still active on Saito, who now feels a strange attraction to Rielza. He approaches her, clearly taken by the influence of the spell, and while Rielza nervously tries to move away, Saito gets very close, and when he is almost ready to kiss her, Lafa intervenes. She breaks the spell with her magic, freeing Saito from the fairy's influence, but the tension between the two still lingers. Suddenly, they realize that the old Morlock is holding hands with the same fairy that had caused all the trouble. Saito worries, thinking that the wizard has also fallen under the spell. However, Rielza reassures the group, explaining that the Morlock is immune to this type of magic and that the fairy will probably reject him soon. Rielza tells Saito not to worry about the stubborn old man, and relieved, he continues with the group, but the danger is not over yet. Soon, they come across a trap that shoots beams of light at anyone wearing metal armor. Saito asks how they can get through the trap without putting Rielza at risk, since she is wearing very heavy armor. The Morlock quickly speaks up, telling Rielza to get naked so that he can use his magic to help move the armor through the light trap. But Rielza is a bit hesitant. She doesn't exactly need to be naked. However, underneath her armor, she is wearing a very provocative outfit, and this makes her quite uncomfortable. And realizing the situation, Saito, with a sympathetic smile, takes off his shirt and offers it to Rielza to wear while they go through the trap. And as soon as the group goes through, the one who ends up getting in the way is the Morlock himself. He forgets that he is also vulnerable to the trap and is struck by the light, all because he stopped casting his protective spells, something quite typical of an old man with Alzheimer's. Later, while Saito is resting in an isolated room, he finds a strange book locked with a keyhole. He tries to use his abilities to unlock it, but the book has something different. When he finally opens the book, he finds a box that holds a peculiar item, which he says is a mushroom, but it doesn't look like much. My dream was to have one that size, and all I know is that suddenly, the Morlock appears behind him, his eyes shining. He explains that it is a legendary delicacy, something so precious that he had hidden it so that no one else could find it. And now, looking like a fanatic, the Morlock starts sniffing it as if it were a lost treasure. He explains to Saito how to consume this delicacy correctly, while looking completely lost in the delight he has in his hands. At that moment, Rielza enters the room and demands her share of the mushroom, which makes Saito think that he is trapped in a group of people addicted to that mushroom. At another point, during his mission to kill a dragon, Saito accidentally breaks one of his best iron tools while removing the scales of the defeated dragon. Frustrated, he tries to fix the tool, but without success, since, as he himself says, he is not an iron magician, but just a handyman. And seeing Saito so shaken, the Morlock suggests that they look for an old friend of his. This friend is Dom Ben, a legendary craftsman known for hearing the voices of iron. He is famous for manipulating iron in unique ways, transforming it completely and creating exceptional tools. Dom Ben can make everything, from detailed armor to gigantic equipment, but due to customers who did not pay properly and still complained about his prices, he isolated himself deep in a cave protected by a door that can only be opened with Dom Ben's 108 keys. The Morlock comments that breaking into Dom Ben's workshop is harder than breaking into a king's bedroom. Nevertheless, Saito accepts the challenge, and using his extraordinary skills, he manages to unlock the 108 keys after a good deal of effort. And when they enter, they find Dom Ben surprised that someone from another world could accomplish such an impressive feat. Dom Ben, admiring Saito's determination, repairs his iron tool, and as payment he asks for a dragon scale, which Saito gives him without without hesitation. When he takes his repaired tool, Saito is amazed at Dom Ben's work. Every edge of his tool has been coated with mithril silver, all done impeccably, and Saito's eyes fill with admiration, and he can't resist opening his mouth to ask Dom Ben to do one more job for him. When Morlock asks Saito what he wants, Saito changes the subject and instead asks about food. The Morlock then prepares dinner for them, and while they are eating and drinking, almost getting dirty with the food, Saito asks a very serious question. Literally, if women, children, and even the weakest can get weapons so easily to kill, what will become of the future of this world? Upon hearing this, the half-drunk Rielza answers without thinking much that this would be bad for business, and this answer leaves Saito thoughtful, and he considers the idea of creating a weapon that could be useful in battles, but soon discards the idea, because if a weapon that makes anyone strong in this world is created, such as a firearm, the entire system of this world would collapse. He is afraid of introducing such dangerous weapons into this world, but even so he still wants to be stronger. Then he suddenly gets up and asks Rielza to teach him how to fight with a sword, but Rielza is already drunk and simply passes out. A few days later, Saito catches a bad cold and starts suffering from a high fever. Rielza says that she doesn't have magic to cure him, and the Morlock agrees, seeming unconcerned. The Morlock recommends that Saito rest while they deal with the lighter missions, like defeating monsters and making Rielza remove her armor. Hearing this, Saito feels guilty and apologizes, saying that he is useless in battles anyway, but he little realizes how essential he has been in many situations. He helped the Morlock perfect his magic, helped Lafa in a fight, and even saved Rielza from a giant iron monster. And although he doesn't realize it, Saito is already the pillar of support of the group, and without him things simply don't work. Currently, it has been half a year since Saito arrived in this strange world, and he tells a girl at a store about his past life, explaining that he worked at a construction company in his world, and the problem was that his salary was ridiculously low, and no one respected him. He even tried to talk to his boss about it, but he was treated like he was a disposable tool. Disheartened, Saito went home thinking that his boss would try to stop him, but that wouldn't happen, and deep down he thought that it wouldn't matter if he died. And while he was lost in these thoughts, walking home, he was hit by a truck with a everything suddenly went dark, and he disappeared as if he had never existed. But the next moment, Saito fell from the sky, right next to Rielza. When the girl opened her eyes, she was shocked to see a stranger sitting next to her. She immediately pulled out a sword, ready to attack him, thinking he was some kind of threat, but luckily the wizard intervened, saying that he didn't feel any magical power coming from Saito, which meant that he wasn't from this world, and if the Morlock hadn't saved Saito, he probably wouldn't be alive now. Now we see everyone tempted in a tavern, having dinner, but Saito can't eat, because he keeps thinking about the iron golem. He asks the Morlock and Rielza how that golem can move on its own, and raises suspicions that it was powered by magic, or some kind of mechanism. He explains that while he was fighting the golem, he heard sounds that seemed mechanical, like that of an engine. The Morlock then suggests that they go to the place where they killed the golem, and investigate its remains. Rielza agrees, saying that they should go to the 10th floor of the labyrinth again. When they reach the entrance to the labyrinth, they are stopped by the guards, who ask for a fee to let them in. Rielza argues that the annual pass is too expensive, and tries to negotiate. She proposes that the guards accept some gold coins instead of the pass, and they eventually agree. They enter the cave and soon notice that all the boxes are empty, with no treasure to collect. After walking for a while, they reach the place where they killed the iron golem, but there is no sign of the body, and Lafa suggests that someone may have taken the golem away. Saito apologizes to the group for having made them go so far for nothing, but suddenly he hears a mechanical sound and runs towards the noise, with Rielza, Lafa, and the Morlock following him. They come face to face with a strange machine making that noise, which soon reveals itself to be some kind of robotic vacuum cleaner. The vacuum cleaner begins to move on its own, coming out of the darkness. Lafa asks if that robot could be something from Saito's world, and he shouts in confirmation. Soon, Saito notices something strange when he places his hand on a nearby wall, and the Morlock, with his experience in magic, explains that it is a camouflage barrier. With Saito's help, the Morlock conjures a magic spell, and a bright light appears on the wall. In a matter of seconds, the wall splits in half, revealing a new entrance. The discovery attracts the attention of adventurers from all over the kingdom, who begin to gather at the site. However, Saito does not receive any official recognition for having found the new passage. When asked, Saito responds that he doesn't mind, since he has secured free access to the labyrinth for the next 10 years. However, Lafa notices a look of sadness on Saito's face, and asks if he is still thinking about the robotic vacuum cleaner they found in the cave. Saito hesitates to answer, but before he can say anything, a charming young man and a lovely girl appear. The boy introduces himself as Canes, the officially recognized hero of the kingdom, and thanks Saito for discovering the new path. Saito takes the opportunity to ask Morlock if the Demon King could ever return, and Morlock says it is unlikely, but explains that several people have been chosen as heroes, Canes being one of them. During the conversation, Canes casually comments that even if Saito had discovered the new path, he would never be recognized as a true hero, and that Canes will always be the one who gains experience and levels. The rudeness of the comment makes everyone uncomfortable, but before anyone can react, a fat man runs up. The fat man introduces himself as Mortal Putin, who is responsible for the education of heroes, and he apologizes on behalf of Canes and the girl, saying that they are still young and immature. He tries to offer Saito a handshake, but is interrupted by another adventurer, who warns him that mortal has something hidden in his hand. Looking around, Saitou notices several adventurers and soldiers paralyzed on the ground, clearly victims of mortal, and realizing that his trick has been exposed, mortal runs off in despair. Saitou thanks the stranger who saved him, and Rielza recognizes the man as an elf fighter known for his iron fists. The elf warns the group that they must hurry to reach the labyrinth before the most valuable treasures are found. Later, they spot two strange men carrying an iron dragon head, and Rielza points out to Saitou that these two will be tough competitors in the future, as they appear to be extremely powerful. The next day, Saitou and his group return to the labyrinth. Suddenly, a huge monster emerges from the darkness. Without warning, it opens its mouth and releases a rain of toxic fire towards the Morlock. The party's mage is struck hard, his body weakening, and he collapses to the ground, unconscious. Saitou runs to the Morlock, his heart racing. He desperately tries to wake him up. He knows they need the Morlock's magic to maintain the upper hand in the fight. Meanwhile, Rielza, the party's warrior, advances without hesitation, with her sword in one hand and the metal shield in the other. She faces the dragon directly. The monster advances towards Rielza with its brute strength, and each blow sends shockwaves through her body. The dragon's strength pushes her back, and her feet slide as she struggles to keep her footing. And despite all her courage, Rielza's sword strikes barely scratch the monster's thick scales. The dragon seems impenetrable, with its skin protecting it from any harm. Suddenly, a young woman appears out of nowhere. She has short hair, and with a confident expression, she quickly advances towards the dragon, wielding her weapon with strength and dexterity. She strikes the dragon's side with precision, and for the first time, the monster lets out a cry of pain, clearly shaken by her blows. The dragon tries to retaliate, but the girl is quick, dodging her attacks and continuing to hit it without hesitation. Each of her blows finds a certain weak point in the creature's scales, and it is then, with a final devastating blow, the young woman defeats the dragon, which falls to the ground with an agonizing roar. She then introduces herself as the hunter of magical monsters, called Lilisa. Shortly after, a grumpy-looking boy joins her, and Lilisa introduces him as Givra, her companion. She explains that they are there to get the treasure, but that it is locked. She confidently assures the Griever that she is an expert in magic and tools and will solve the problem. However, when trying to open the chest, the Griever admits that it is more difficult than he imagined. Then, Saitou, with his blacksmithing skills, offers to try. Lilisa, with a suspicious look, doubts his abilities and tells him to get out of the way. Even so, Saitou insists. With his tools and dexterity, he manages to open the treasure quickly. When the chest opens, he is surprised to see that it is full of diamonds. Saitou takes some and hands them to the Griever, saying that they deserve it since they defeated the dragon. The Griever, however, turns red with anger, looking very frustrated. But in fact, not only had Saitou opened the chest, he had also opened the Griever's heart, who seemed very emotional. After some time, Saitou ends up getting separated from his group, and while walking alone, he encounters Montel again. Montel tries to taunt him, saying that Saitou is weak, and that he is only in the group because his friends are strong. Saitou ignores the taunts and decides to rest, while Montel erects a magical barrier around himself, saying that it is to keep the monsters away. Saitou asks why he didn't erect a barrier for himself too, and Montel replies that he doesn't have enough magic. Saitou then takes out some cups containing sacred water, a gift from the Lafa, from his bag and uses it to create his own protective barrier. He settles down and, in a friendly gesture, offers sandwiches to Montel, who declines, feeling guilty for having treated Saitou badly before. Soon, Saitou's group appears running towards him, worried about him, and upon seeing the unity and care between them, Montel feels a pang of sadness as he realizes that no one came looking for him. However, unexpectedly, Kans comes running and hugs Montel, saying that he was worried about him. Kans asks Montel why he came down alone, and upon hearing this, Montel begins to cry. Saitou and his companions are touched by the friendship between Kans and Montel, realizing that Kans is a good hero, contrary to what many say. Soon after, the group is confronted by a strange demon in the form of a sword. Rielza fights bravely against it, and just as she is about to knock the monster down with a decisive blow, the fighting elf appears and finishes the creature off. After defeating the monster, the elf declares that he will keep the treasure that the monster was guarding. Rielza, outraged, protests, saying that the treasure belongs to her and her companions. The elf, in turn, turns to her and argues that he was the one who saved her, and Rielza says that she never asked for help and that she did not need to be saved. Everyone begins to argue intensely about who deserves the treasure, and in the end they decide to settle the dispute in a duel, even though they know that it is forbidden for adventurers to fight each other inside the Great Labyrinth, because if they are caught, they could be banned from exploring the place. The elf, however, claims that she is willing to fight if they both agree to the conditions. Ninia, the elf's companion, tries to convince her to give up, but she doesn't listen. She demands that Rielza choose someone from her group to represent them, but Ninia and Lafa intervene to forge an agreement, saying that even if someone is seriously injured or dies, no retaliation will be allowed. So, with the agreement made, the fight is prepared. Rielza and the elf position themselves for the fight, while Saitou watches from a distance, confused about the concept of honor between warriors, and despite his concern, he feels a little relieved, believing that Rielza's heavy armor will protect her, and his fear lies in the fact that the enemy uses iron arms in combat. The fight begins and the clash of swords and metal arms echoes through the place. The elf is extremely fast and, even with the armor, manages to injure Rielza. Saitou realizes that Rielza's sword sword is not suited to face such an agile opponent. Suddenly, Rielza makes a bold decision. She removes her heavy armor to gain more speed, allowing herself to react more quickly to the elf's movements. A worried Ninja begs the elf to stop fighting, saying that she doesn't want anyone to die over a treasure. The elf, realizing that she could end up losing if she continues, agrees to end the duel. Saitou then intervenes and proposes to split the treasure between the elf and Ninja, thus resolving the conflict peacefully. Later, Saitou and his group continue their exploration of the labyrinth. They arrive at a place with low walls and, suddenly, Saitou sees the mysterious robot again. This time, he runs after the sound of the machine, shouting to his companions that he will be fine on his own. He chases the robot deeper and deeper into the maze, asking it to stop. Eventually, Saitou reaches a strange place, full of objects he recognizes from his world. As he tries to understand what is happening, a hidden ninja armed with a black sword appears and attacks him, and Rielza appears at the last second to save Saitou from the attack. She notices that there is an aura of magical light around the ninja and asks why he uses so much lighting, since the ninja's specialty is to act in the shadows. Suddenly, the ninja dives into Rielza's shadow and she is immediately immobilized, pinned to the ground and unable to move. The ninja approaches Rielza, ready to attack her, but the dwarf blacksmith appears to save her, firing a bow at the ninja. Soon after, the lava begins to use its abilities to attack the ninja's companion, trying to reduce the lighting magic he uses. In the meantime, the blacksmith summons a powerful magic that causes explosions in the cave, forcing the ninja to flee. The blacksmith then claims that the ninja is responsible for the mysterious attacks that have been occurring against adventurers in the Great Labyrinth. And upon seeing the Morlock wizard, the blacksmith advances towards him, saying that he has finally found him after so long. Confused, the Morlock asks why he was being sought, while the blacksmith, excited, refers to him as his master. The Morlock, however, responds indifferently that he only accepts women as apprentices. The blacksmith, ignoring the comment, explains that the Morlock is actually a very famous wizard in a distant land, which is to the east. According to him, 20 years ago, the Morlock left in search of forbidden magic and never returned. The blacksmith says that he saw him at the entrance to the Great Labyrinth and was just waiting for the opportunity to approach him. Rielza, curious, asks the Morlock if he has really forgotten his past, and he confirms, saying that apart from his own name and how to use magic, he remembers nothing else. Lafa takes the opportunity and comments that, lately, the Morlock seems like a completely useless being, since he forgets even his magic in the most critical moments. The blacksmith is outraged by the way the group is talking to the Morlock, stating that he is an exceptional wizard and that his popularity among women is legendary. He then changes to a serious tone and reveals that the Morlock's true name is the Great Wizard Bag Hang. However, before he can say anything else, a sword appears out of nowhere and strikes the blacksmith's neck, interrupting his speech. The attack puts Rielza and the others on high alert, and they suspect that the attack came from the ninja from earlier. Rielza thinks to herself that, as formidable as the ninja is, with Saitou's help and the Morlock using his magic, they can overcome him. But everyone is terrified when they realize that the ninja is not alone. He is now accompanied by great demons. At this point, the ninja's story is revealed. He fell in love with a beautiful mage, and when they kissed, she fell in love with him too. However, when he returned to the mage's village to take her away with him, he found her in her final moments of life. She had aged rapidly and her hair was completely white. The mage's companion explained that when she fell in love with the ninja, the curse that kept her youth was broken, causing her to return to her true age. Desperate to save the love of his life, a ninja heard about the great wizard of the West who could help him, and so, he ended up following Morlock and the others into the cave, hoping to find a solution. And as the battle heats up, Rielza, Lafa and their companions face extremely powerful enemies. Rielza is face to face with the ninja, who uses his shadow magic to try to immobilize her. He tries to imprison her by manipulating her shadow, making it impossible for her to move. However, Lafa, always ready to help, quickly casts a bright light spell. The light strikes the ninja's shadow, breaking the spell and allowing Rielza to regain her freedom. Lafa tells Rielza to be on the lookout for danger in case the ninja passes through her shadow again. She also finishes healing the dwarf mage, who now returns to the battle, fully determined to protect his friends from the approaching demons. The dwarf positions himself against the demons, defending his allies from their attacks. As he blocks the demons, the dwarf signals the mage to prepare with his most powerful spells. The dwarf knows that they need to hold off the demons just long enough to give the mage time to launch a counterattack with a powerful spell. The battle becomes even more intense with the arrival of a second demon. This demon declares with great confidence that he and his companion do not need magic to win. Their brute strength alone is enough to defeat Saitou and his allies. Then, with a powerful blow, the second demon releases a great wave of dark energy towards Saitou and his friends. The wave is so intense that Saitou feels helpless, realizing that his hot magic is not enough to fight these demons. He blames himself for having brought everyone to such a dangerous place and feels the weight of this responsibility on his shoulders. Desperate, he asks Morlock to use a high-level magic. He tells him the name of the magic and believes that this magic may be strong enough to turn the battle around. Saitou already knows the magic and begins to chant it, while Morlock follows him, focusing all his energy on the magic. Suddenly, a gigantic magic descends upon the demons, shining with intense power. For a moment, it seems that victory is within reach, but one of the demons resists the attack, and with a brutal movement, he grabs Saitou in his huge hand, hurting him and spreading his his blood. Rielza sees this happening and is very sad, believing that Saito has been killed. The scene is disturbing, and everyone feels as if the ground has been lifted from under their feet. But then, to everyone's surprise, they look up and see Saito, with Lelisa and Grieve by his side. The Morlock explains that Grieve used a special magic called substitution magic to save Saito. With Saito saved, everyone breathes a sigh of relief, truly grateful for Grieve's quick action. After the tension subsides, Grieve explains that he and Lelisa heard the noise of the battle and decided to come help. In a relaxed tone, he says that he can't let Saito take all the treasure for himself. Lelisa smiles and adds that Grieve has actually been following Saito for some time, using his tracking magic because he really likes him. But suddenly, the demon comes running towards them, furious. However, the jungle warrior appears to save the group and punches the demon in the face. The demon rises into the air and spreads another wave of dark energy over everyone. But someone puts up a barrier around them to protect them. When everyone looks to the side, they see Montel and his companions creating a barrier to protect them from the demon. Everyone unites as a team to face the ninja and the demons. And seeing so many warriors against him, the ninja naturally feels threatened, and the demons decide to withdraw from the fight and flee. Ninia asks Lafa to help her stop the demons from escaping, as they represent a great danger to high and low-level adventurers. Ninia suggests using a combined magic to eliminate them, and Lafa agrees. However, the ninja fairy tries to stop them, but she is attacked by the magic bow. And seeing that his demon friends are in danger, the ninja takes the blow of the combined magic, ready to die in place of his beloved friends. For the first time in his life, he stands up for a cause that is not his, and soon the magic hits him, and the demons are left there. Then, the ninja declares that he is leading the expedition to the woman he loves, so that the other demons will no longer have to follow his orders. However, Ninia looks at the ninja and tells everyone that the magic blow did not have much effect on him, but should have caused severe damage. Saitou asks everyone to stop, as the winner has already been decided, but some people protest, saying that they cannot let them go, because this ninja is under suspicion of killing other adventurers. The ninja fairy screams angrily, stating that no one will take the treasure hidden by the wizard who controls time, and begins to conjure a spell of 8 dark shots to protect her master and help him save the witch. Then, at this moment, it is explained that Primas is a black crystal fairy. She is able to store magical energy in her black wings. Because of this, she has always been chased by adventurers who wanted to take advantage of her wings, and in order to get rid of these adventurers, she decided to completely change her body so that humans would no longer be interested in her. However, when she turned into a chubby fairy, her body movements slowed down, and she was eventually captured by one of the adventurers. However, Revelia saved her and took her home, and since they were both scandalous, they had a lot of fun with each other. Revelia told her that she had lived for over 400 years as a loner, and she explained that she was under a curse, and that if she fell in love, the curse would be broken, and she would eventually die of old age. And now we see that the ninja doesn't want to sacrifice Primas, so he holds her wings to prevent her from using her black magic against Saito and the others. She screams for the ninja to break her wings and release her magic, but the ninja doesn't have the courage to do it, so Primas uses her telekinesis and beats her wings with her 2 swords, one on each side. She offers her wings to the Lord of Darkness, and soon a pillar with several eyes appears, and suddenly the elf looks at one of the eyes, and ends up being sent back to the cave, tearing off her ear. Suddenly, another eye of the scandal emits a light of energy against the elf and her companion, but Raelsa blocks the attack with her sword. She soon realizes that the ninja and Prima's companions are using themselves as sacrifices to summon the dark spirit. Now the evil spirit is causing chaos inside the cave, and Saito asks the Morlock to use his Shadow of the 7 Gods technique again. The Morlock raises his staff in the air and begins to cast a series of spells to defeat the dark spirit, while Saito continues to help him remember his magic. Then light begins to shoot at the pillar of black magic, but unfortunately nothing happens. The pillar goes completely crazy and begins to shoot energy light from all its eyes. Raelsa asks everyone to attack the pillar's eye, but it continues to block all attacks, and the eyes gain more power with each passing second. And with its insane power, no one has the opportunity to approach the body and attack. And Lafa screams in terror that soon she will be consumed by magical energy and will no longer be able to block the attacks. Saito then tells the Morlock to release the magic that controls time, and the Morlock looks at him suspiciously and asks how he knows about this magic. Saito replies that when he opened the closed book, he found a secret paper that contained the instructions on the magic that controls time and space. Saito already knows that it was the Morlock who teleported him to this world, and as soon as the Morlock hears these words, his memories of the past begin to float in his mind. He remembers the days when he worked intensely on a very powerful magic project. At that time, he had a young daughter who meant a lot to him. One day he promised her that he would become the greatest magician in the country so that they could live together happily in a beautiful house. He dreamed of giving her the best life, but he was obsessed with his work. Then, one dark day, his daughter became very ill. His wife asked him to stay home to take care of her, but he apologized, saying that he could not abandon his work. He explained that if he didn't finish his project, all his efforts would have been in vain. He believed that once he became the famous wizard, they would have a brighter future. Thus, the days passed as he immersed himself in his work, completely ignoring his family. And when he finally achieved his goal and became recognized as the most powerful wizard, he returned home eager to share the news, but was greeted with the news that his daughter had died due to to illness. Frightened and devastated, he realized how much he had sacrificed, only to lose the person he loved most. His wife, filled with anger and grief, left him, and the Morlock was left alone, filled with guilt and loneliness. In a fit of rage, he destroyed his magical books, one after another, until he found a strange, ancient book. In it, he read about a mysterious labyrinth in the Northern Kingdom that held the secret of time magic. At that moment, hope sparked in his heart, and he resolved to find this magic to bring his daughter back. He traveled to the Great Labyrinth, desperate to find any clues to this powerful magic. After days of traveling, he came across a strange collection of objects that seemed out of place. Among them was an ancient study containing the magic he sought. When he picked it up, a figure dressed in white appeared before him. The Morlock asked the stranger to teach him the magic, explaining that he wanted to bring his daughter back to life. The stranger, however, did not agree so easily, and challenged the Morlock to a fight, saying that only if he won would he receive the knowledge. The battle was insane and left both tired and injured, until finally the stranger, impressed by the Morlock's determination, agreed to grant him his wish. But instead of teaching him time magic, the stranger cast a different kind of magic, and made the Morlock forget all his memories, including his daughter, his wife, and even his regret. With no memory of his past, he was forced to start a new life, no longer tormented by suffering. Back in the present, the old wizard remains silent, trying to piece together the fragments of his memory, while Saitou's words echo in his mind. Saitou asks him if it was really him who summoned him to this world, but the wizard can barely remember anything, especially his knowledge of magic. His mind is clouded, and the spells that were once a part of him now appear in distant whispers. He can only remember a lingering sensation of a spell called the Moment of Time, a spell that freezes everything for a single heartbeat. Saitou, sensing the wizard's hesitation, steps forward and offers his help, reminding him of the spell he had only seen once before. Then, slowly, with Saitou's guidance, the wizard begins to prepare the spell, and thanks to Saitou, he is able to remember it. Meanwhile, the dwarf sends a telepathic message to the group, alerting them to the plan. His master's magic will serve as a hidden advantage. He tells everyone that they must keep the pillar's eye open until the wizard can finish the spell. Then, everyone springs into action, each using their unique abilities to stop the pillar from causing more chaos. The wood elf takes charge, instructing the lightning to protect Grieve and the ninja, while he concentrates on keeping the pillar's eye open, inducing it to fire lightning. With each explosion, the eye remains active, allowing the mage and Saitou to continue to envelop their spells. But just as they begin to make progress, disaster strikes. The Lafa is struck by a beam, which throws it off balance and forces it out of action. The mage and Saitou feel the urgency to speed up the process to prevent their friends from suffering further damage. Montel and his students step in to cover them, creating a defensive shield to protect the mage as he chants his spell. The air grows thick with tension, and each member of the group is locked in a fierce battle to hold the line as the mage struggles to remember the spell. Slowly and painfully, he strings together the final words, and finally reaches the end of the incantation, and suddenly, everything around him stops. The world becomes perfectly still, just as the spell had promised. The mage looks around, amazed and perplexed by the stillness that surrounds him. The spell has worked, but the old man finds himself unable to remember what he is supposed to do. He only has 100 seconds, and to remember what he is supposed to do, he tries to wake Saitou, but no one can hear his voice. Fortunately, he notices a scribbled set of instructions, which say that he is to attack the eyes with a spell, and suddenly he realizes that it was Saitou who did this to help him. Then, in a rage, he begins to chant a spell. This spell will raise everyone's magical power to the extreme. He gathers all his energy, combining it to form a fiery explosion spell, which is enough to destroy the pillar, and then jumps towards it, but suddenly he is hit by painful memories. He has flashbacks of the memories of the witch and the ninja, where he is crying next to the nearly dead witch, and the fairy tells him about a wizard who can save the witch's life. He realizes that his enemy is doing all this out of love and loyalty, and if he defeats the evil spirit in this way, there will be no way to save the ninja and his allies. But for the sake of his friends and allies, he attacks the pillar with the terrible magic, and soon time begins to run again. Everyone sees the pillar beginning to disintegrate before them. Everyone sees the magician's limb fall to the ground, separating from his arm. Everyone is in disbelief at the scene before them, but the magician calmly replies that they must fix the fairy's wings, which may have fallen somewhere. As she releases her dark magic, Raelsa tries to protest, saying that the ninja and his teammates tried to kill them, so they have no obligation to save them. The magician replies that just before releasing his magic, he saw their memories and could no longer kill them. Therefore, he used half of his magic to attack and avoid killing them, and at the same time, he activated the magic cancellation. His plan was very successful, but since half of the magic was forced to flow backwards, he lost his arm in the process. Hearing this, Raelsa had tears in her eyes and ran to hug him. Soon, they start finding the fairy's wings, and after searching a bit under the rocks, Lafa finds a pair of black wings, and Grieve offers to help her seal the wings onto the fairy's body with the help of magic. But just as Lafa is about to attach the wings, the fairy writhes in Grieve's palms, and angrily declares that she doesn't want charity from someone who is getting along with humans. Lafa points to the ninja, and replies that the fairy is also getting along with the human. So, in the end, they are both happy with the humans. A ninja stands surrounded, his face filled with grief and sadness, and is asked to send the two demons back to the demon realm. But he explains that he cannot do so of his own free will. These two demons have been with him for a long time, completely completely haunting his steps, and have also been causing the recent attacks on the nearby villages. The ninja admits his guilt and says that he would accept any punishment, even execution. However, he requests that the fairy and the two demons be spared, in the hopes of protecting them from further harm. A dwarf among the nearby adventurers watches him closely, sensing that there is more to the ninja's story, and after a brief pause, the dwarf asks if the ninja is searching for a certain powerful wizard who has the ability to control time. The ninja's eyes light up at the question. He nods, confirming that he has indeed heard of such a wizard, and even knows his name. The ninja believes that this wizard may hold the key to righting his past wrongs, perhaps even saving a lost friend he cannot forget. The dwarf then looks over to where a clearly injured wizard lies. The dwarf reveals to the ninja that the wizard he is seeking is right there, before him. It turns out that 10 years ago, he made a name for himself when he set out to explore the largest and most dangerous labyrinth, a place filled with mysteries and unspeakable dangers. The Morlock's achievements have become the stuff of legend, and hearing that the wizard he seeks is before him fills the ninja with hope. If the Morlock can truly control time, he may be able to help the ninja save a powerful witch who has been lost for years, and reunite him with his beloved. His despair begins to fade, replaced by a glimmer of hope, but suddenly, 3 swords are thrust into the ground right in front of the ninja, interrupting his thoughts. He looks up in surprise as 2 shadowy figures step out of the darkness. Their faces hidden, but with an intimidating presence, they approach the ninja and the group of adventurers. The 2 men declare that they will punish the ninja for the deaths, and order him to be attacked. But before the swords can touch the ninja, a demon comrade of his attacks himself. The other demon marches angrily in front of the 2 men, and warns them that if they lay their filthy hands on his master, he will end them both. But suddenly, one of the men transforms into a demon, revealing that he is the uncle of the demon who works for the ninja, and soon, the 2 begin to bond over fond memories of the past. Upon seeing this, the Blackwing Fairy confirms that the Holy Knight is definitely a high-ranking demon. Saitou asks Lafa about how many people were killed by the demon's sneak attacks, and she replies that there are 2 who have not been confirmed to have been revived, a Holy Knight and a mage from another realm. But it turns out that the mage and the knight are the 2 companions who are in front of them. One of them is the king's minister, and furthermore, if these 2 companions forgive the ninja, he will not be hanged. Soon, the ninja asks the mage if he can help him change time, and the mage replies that he can only stop time for a moment, because the person who can truly conduct the time reversal magic is the mage who summoned the items from another dimension to this world, but he got tired of this world and went to another place. The wizard has no idea where the stranger might be. He could be in the demon realm, the spirit realm, or perhaps the human world. He could even be in Saitou's world, so finding him will be impossible. The minister introduces himself and says that there may be another way to save the witch, and the king he serves is capable of conducting that magic, but it requires the life of a person who is connected to the witch. The 2 demons turn to the ninja, asking him not to give up his life, as there may be another way to revive the witch. But the ninja begs the minister to use his life. He reveals that he wants to use his life to protect the woman he loves. The minister responds that the ninja must be treated according to the laws of the realm, but if everyone pretends to ignore his crimes and forgive him, then something else can be resolved. Everyone decides to forgive the ninja, and Saitou says that if the ninja wants to be of use to someone, he should be allowed to do so. Later, the demons are sent back to their homes, and the minister contacts the king, who can break the witch's curse, and prepares to use teleportation magic to bring the ninja to him. After the ninja is teleported, Lafa asks Saitou if he found the vacuum robot he was looking for, and he says he hasn't found it yet. He adds that he isn't focusing on that specifically, and the wizard says that whatever person summoned him to this world may have lived in this place in the past, and he must have called these things here when he opened the doors to other worlds. Soon, other wizards begin to come to the labyrinth, indicating that the new area has become very popular. Meanwhile, the king accompanies the ninja to the witch's house to break the spell that oppresses her. The ninja tells the king that his rash act of loving the witch caused her to grow old, and when he became sad about it, he realized that the people he killed must also love other people, and that he must have made many people sad. The king responds that the fact that he did not realize something so simple until now makes him seem like a petty man. He quickly raises his sword and strikes the ninja to break the spell, but the king, being a kind person, does not kill the ninja, but cuts off one of his arms and legs. The witch emerges from her room, her appearance restored to youth. Her skin is smooth, her face bright and lively, and her energy is unmistakable. And as she looks around, she notices a figure waiting nearby, a lone ninja who remains silent, but she is quick to notice that he is missing a limb and a leg. This loss, although painful, does not seem to bother him that much. And what she does not realize, however, is that this wounded man has gone through immense suffering and sacrifice for her. And unbeknownst to her, the Black-Winged Fairy gave up her own wings to save him, sparing his life at great personal cost. The fairy's wings were her most precious possession, being the essence of her being, but she gave them up to save this loyal ninja. The witch, who has been in a deep sleep for a long time, has forgotten much of her past and the people who cared for her, including the ninja who stands before her now. Without recognizing him, she gives him a casual, indifferent glance and begins to walk away. Upon seeing this, the ninja feels a pang of sadness in his heart, realizing that she remembers nothing of their connection. He calmly turns to leave, his heart heavy with the words left unsaid. However, just as he begins to walk away, the Black-Winged Fairy appears, mocking him with a fiery tone, telling him not to back down without telling the truth. He must confess his love to the person he has silently wanted for so long, but the ninja, full of humility and gratitude, responds that it does not matter if his love is not recognized. He is content to know that she is alive and safe. The fairy, outraged by this, lets out a furious scream, remembering her sacrifices. She tells him that she gave her wings to him, becoming weak and thin in the process, all to see his love fulfilled. She refuses to let him go out of cowardice, and challenges him to stay and face the witch with courage and try to win her heart perhaps once more. At this point, when the ninja turns back, he notices that the witch is being approached by two suspicious figures. Initially, he assumes that she is still powerful enough to deal with such trivial threats and does nothing, but the black-winged fairy tells him that she cannot sense any magic in the witch and that her power seems to have disappeared during her long rest. This revelation spurs the ninja into action, and without hesitation, he rushes towards the witch, determined to protect her from any danger. He quickly fends off the two men who dare approach her, and to his surprise, he discovers that the two figures are no ordinary bandits, but rather his own sworn brothers, the demons who have arrived with the black-winged fairy to play a role in his love story. They have also come to help him overcome his fear and win back the witch's heart, hoping that through their intervention, the ninja and the witch will finally realize their love and be united. The adventurers part ways at the exit of the labyrinth, each going their separate ways, but promising to meet again when fate allows. Together, they return to town, feeling exhausted and fulfilled. They decide to relax at a nearby inn, and now reunited, they wonder how the mysterious wizard among them managed to summon Saitou. The mage admits that he can barely remember the details. He remembers practicing his magic one day, as he always does, and then, out of nowhere, Saitou appeared in Rielza's room. Saitou's appearance is a mystery even to him, and he expresses a sense of guilt, explaining that he had no intention of transporting Saitou to their world without his permission. However, Saitou, appreciating the mage's honesty, holds no resentment, and is actually grateful for this twist of fate, as it saved him from a terrible accident in his own world. The group sits in thoughtful silence, until Lafa voices an idea that has been on everyone's minds. She suggests that if the mage's magic was strong enough to bring Saitou to their world, perhaps that same magic can send him back to where he came from. The possibility triggers a wave of mixed emotions at the table. For Rielza, she clearly doesn't want him to go. She feels a wave of resistance, and remembers Saitou's promise to stay by her side. She becomes sad and ends up leaving the inn with tears in her eyes, and Saitou follows her. Everyone then begins searching for Saitou and Rielza, worried that monsters might be lurking in the darkness. To make matters worse, Rielza has also left her sword behind, and Saitou is also feeling conflicted about his place in this new world. And Rielza seems to know his uneasiness, and during a moment together, she asks him if he wants to return to his own world. And Saitou admits that he doesn't really want to go back, revealing that no one wants him there. And just as he begins to open up, a centipede-like monster appears, covered in thick armor. The creature is fast and lunges towards Rielza. Saitou freezes. However, Rielza uses an incredible reserve of strength and tears the monster apart with her bare hands, splitting it in two. As the monster's body falls lifeless into the water, Rielza stands up victorious, but visibly shaken, with her emotions still raw. She then tells Saitou how much she appreciates him. Saitou, still shaken but relieved that she is alive, approaches to examine her wounds. He applies a small bandage to her, showing her that he cares deeply for her, and also expresses his desire to stay by her side forever. Rielza is moved, but tries to hide her emotions. She even tries to change the subject by commenting on Saitou's growing knowledge of monsters. Unfortunately, before they can show their feelings any further, the mage and Lafa arrive on the scene. Rielza, worried about Saitou's future, asks the old mage if he would be able to use his magic to send Saitou back to his original world. The mage considers the idea, but explains that even if he had the proper spellbook, returning Saitou to his world would put him in the exact same moment and situation he left there. That is, right in front of a speeding truck, and thus, he would die instantly. And although this thought brings Saitou a momentary sadness, he quickly dismisses it, saying that he had no plans to return anyway. He realizes that he has finally found a place where he is needed, and now, with his determination reaffirmed, he decides to remain an adventurer alongside Rielza and his companions. After this, a few months pass, after the intense battle against the dark spirits. Then, out of nowhere, everyone receives the shocking news that the wizard has passed away. The group is shocked, especially Rielza. She thinks of all the possible solutions to revive him, asking the messenger if he has any reanimation potions or if they can take the old man's body to a nearby temple. But the messenger says that all of these options will cost them a lot of money. He says that the old man's body was placed in a simple shed to prevent decomposition, but even that did not keep him safe. And a wild dog managed to bite off part of the wizard's body, which left them with no choice but to bury him quickly to avoid further disrespect. Later, the group visits the mage's grave. Everyone is now saddened by the mage's death, and some even feel guilty because if they had known about it earlier, they could have revived him. To everyone, including Saitou, it seems impossible that the mage died from a mere poison, since they have already survived many more challenges together. However, before they really give up, Saitou suggests that they dig up the old man's body, at least to try a resuscitation spell. But Rielza says that this would require a huge donation to the church, an expense they cannot afford, especially since reviving a high-level mage is no small feat. Saitou, however, argues that in this world, compared to the one he came from, death does not have to be an absolute end, and the longer they wait with without taking action, the less their chances of reviving the mage. Inspired by his determination, Lafa agrees with him and decides to act quickly. She sets out to gather the tools needed for rebirth, planning to visit the magic shop to get what they need, and Rielza and Saitou are tasked with finding the tools needed for the old man's excavation. Along the way, we see a determined Lafa find what she needs. She goes from shop to shop searching, but everywhere she goes is crowded with people. After a while, feeling frustrated and defeated, she returns to the grave. However, when she arrives, she is shocked. The grave they carefully dug is empty, and the magician is nowhere to be seen. At that moment, Saitou and Rielza arrive and are also startled to see the disturbed grave. But before they can understand what is happening, something strange catches their attention. A figure in the distance looks like a mage. However, something about him seems off. This person is alone, shooting waves of fire into the sky in chaotic bursts. The figure looks like a skeleton, and for a moment, Rielza and Saitou wonder if this could be their mage, somehow brought back to life in this distorted form. He continues to simply shoot fire wildly, without focus or control, and realizing that they are in real danger, Rielza and Saitou hide behind a large rock. However, Rielza in her heart feels that she has no choice but to face this threat, even if it is dangerous. Gathering her courage, she decides that she must act. She runs towards the skeleton, with Saitou right behind her. She raises her sword and strikes the skeleton's head with all her strength. His blade fits, but to his horror it has almost no effect. The skeleton's head shakes with the impact, but remains intact, barely affected. Rielza quickly realizes that her weapon is useless against this enemy, and only a magical weapon can break through the skeleton's defenses. And upon seeing Rielza struggling, Saitou has an idea. He runs towards her, carrying a bottle of holy water. But just as Saitou tries to hand him the bottle, the skeleton turns towards him and releases a fierce blast of fire. The explosion shatters the bottle instantly, spilling holy water onto the sand. Everyone loses hope, and the skeleton is now preparing another powerful attack, and its target is Rielza. Suddenly, when all seems truly lost, a force strikes the skeleton from an unexpected direction. The blow is so powerful that it completely knocks off the skeleton's head. Everyone turns to see who helped them, and this figure looks like their wizard, but in a strange way. The shadow murmurs, repeating something in a voice that sounds like the old wizard's. Rielza quickly says that it is undoubtedly the wizard's voice, and Saitou feels a wave of relief, happy to see his friend somehow alive. But as they get closer, they realize that the wizard's appearance is far from normal. His body is skeletal, his face is thin, and when Rielza tries to understand what happened, the wizard himself seems confused, saying that he was just lying down, and then he lost consciousness. But then something strange begins to happen. There are ways in which the wizard's alethics slowly changes, with his flesh and bones gradually returning, and the wizard begins to regain his original appearance. And despite the strangeness, they both feel at ease, with the wizard back by their side, ready to face the dangers that lie ahead. Later, at the inn, the wizard tells them that he has signed the resurrection contract, which means that even if he dies, he will come back to life after a day. This is a high-level magic, and it is only effective once. Saitou happily says that he is happy to see that the wizard has come back to life. But suddenly, the wizard's face turns into a skeleton and then returns to normal, and Lafa then declares that a part of the old man's body is missing, and that is why the revival magic is not working on him, and there is nothing they can do about it. Overhearing their conversation, the dwarf who loves the wizard enters the inn and declares that he will help the wizard. He shows them the great encyclopedia of magic that contains all the spells, called the Magicpedia. According to the book, when the rebirth magic fails because a body part is missing, they need to bring back the missing part. Even if it is the flesh that is eaten and consumed, the magical energy will remain in the person who consumed it. Therefore, if they find the dog that ate the wizard's body part and bring back its magical energy, the wizard will be able to live completely. The next morning, they set out to find the dog with the help of the dwarf, but they are unable to detect the magic. Suddenly, the forest elf comes towards them and is frightened to see the skeletal form of the wizard. Later, they discover that the dog that ate a part of the wizard has a red mark on its forehead. This is a dog that was on the outskirts of the city, and they even had a mission to defeat it. However, the elf did not accept it. Saitou declares that they must complete this mission and catch this dog, so they head to the desert where the corpses are buried. The wizard and Saitou stop at a place to rest, while Rielza and the others walk ahead. The wizard tells Saitou that Rielza was an orphan when he found her. She had lost her father in a wolf attack, and her mother died fighting the wolf's mate. Since then, she lived with a wolf cub and became friends with it until the wizard found her. And to the old man, Rielza is like his own daughter, so he asks Saitou to take her with him wherever he goes. Saitou is a little confused and replies that they need to consider Rielza's feelings too, and the old man has already said that she loves him very much. Saitou accepts and says that he will do his best to make Rielza happy. Hearing this, the wizard hugs Saitou and starts sobbing, and suddenly, the wild dog, with insane magical energy, jumps on the wizard and bites his hand, and when Saitou tries to save him, he is attacked too. When Rielza and Lafa rush out to find them, they find the two lying on the ground, whimpering in pain. As the wild dog is right in front of them, Rielza asks Lafa to help Saitou with her reanimation magic, since he is still breathing. As she deals with the wild dog, who is chewing on their body parts, Rielza angrily shouts that she will cut the wild dog into pieces and get the wizard's body parts back. Saying this, she runs towards the dog. As it rushes towards her, and the two brutally face each other, the dog releases a breath of fire fire, which blows Rielza's armor away. But even so, she attacks the dog and hits its vital nerve, injuring it. And just as she tries to kill it, an adorable white wolf pup appears and starts barking at Rielza. She soon realizes that it is the dog's pup, and upon hearing its pup's voice, the wolf gets up with difficulty and walks towards Rielza, begging her to kill it, but spare the life of her son. Rielza looks angrily at the wolf, but Saitou calls her attention, saying that the wizard is not breathing. Rielza declares that she will spare the pup, but will cut off the wolf's limbs to recover her friend's magical energy and save him. But just as she raises her sword to do so, two tentacles pierce the wolf's body, and Lafa screams, saying that it is the great demon. The demon begins to disappear with the wolf's body, but Saitou quickly takes an anchor from his tool belt and wraps it around the wolf's body, determined not to let go until the mage is resurrected. Lafa quickly infuses Rielza's sword with her magic, and Rielza begs the Demon King to let go of the dog, but he refuses because he wants revenge for his dead brother. He adds that the dog should have withered away and died by now, but it ended up ingesting a massive amount of magical energy, which is why his master ordered him to take it back. The demon begins to chant the curse of the 7 rays, and Rielza rushes towards it to save the wolf before the chants end, but the curse is triggered, and Lafa releases a golden barrier to save Rielza. Rielza seizes the opportunity and stabs the demon with her sword. However, the demon's master emerges and attacks them with a fiery energy, and Lafa faints while Rielza saves him. The Demon King emerges from his body, and Rielza realizes that he is one of the strongest enemies she has ever encountered. She asks Saitou to take Lafa and run away, promising that she will hold him back. She asks him to leave the sorcerer and the dog, and she will take them back with her. Saitou runs with Lafa and tries to take the puppy as well, but the puppy is unwilling to go. Saitou wonders what he should do to save his friends, while Rielza is dealing with the brutal Demon King. The Demon King wraps his tentacles around Rielza and tells her that she will make a fine specimen. He tries to pierce her neck with his tentacles, but Saitou rushes towards him with his wire cutter and cuts off his tentacle. Rielza then cuts the Demon King in two, but as soon as she reaches his core, the ice curse is released. However, Saitou interferes and takes the curse upon himself, being frozen. Rielza continues to fight the demon to save Saitou from being killed. Nearby, Saitou had placed the sorcerer's body near the globe, and now the old man can feel a magical energy near his body. His soul arrives in another realm where the dead dog asks the sorcerer to take care of his puppy in exchange for his magical energy, and the sorcerer quickly agrees. On the other hand, Rielza is seriously injured, with blood coming out of her body, but suddenly the demon's head is cut off, and Saita's ice is broken. He falls into Rielza's arms, and the two realize that the old wizard is back, with all his strength and magical power. The old man attacks the demon with his magic swords, which pierce his body and kill him. Having done this, he walks towards Saitou and Rielza, and now, because he has absorbed the dog's magical energy, he has gained a pair of ears and a tail. He tells everyone that the dog gave him its power, but now they need to take care of its puppy. But he wants to return part of the dog's power to revive him with his puppy. However, out of nowhere, a gust of wind appears and knocks the old wizard down. Everyone stares in bewilderment at the Demon King, who stands up again, but the old wizard is not hurt in the slightest. He gathers all his energy and soon transforms into a handsome young man, declaring that he has regained his youth. Suddenly, he summons a huge golem with his teleportation magic and merges it to create a huge stone monster. However, the Demon King easily defeats his golem. Then, the courageous wizard retaliates with a powerful punch, hitting the Demon King square in the face. And seizing the moment, he orders the shattered stones of the golem to come together and tries to crush the demon under them. Using his magic, he tightens his grip, forcing each stone to attach itself to the Demon King's body, completely trapping him in place. Still, the old wizard knew that this was not enough, and he hurriedly erected a large barrier around them, hoping to protect them from the Demon King's relentless wrath. And now, in a last desperate attempt to end this fight, the sorcerer began to summon his ultimate weapon, in addition to the 8-pointed fire sword, a fire formation known as the Fire Sword of War. But as his moment to win this battle approached, his mind went blank. He forgot how to unleash his full strength. This mistake left him completely vulnerable, and the Demon King, sensing his weakness, advanced to strike him down. As the Demon King approached, ready to finish him off, Saitou stepped in, wielding Rielza's sword, and with a swift strike, Saitou cut off one of the demon's arms, halting his advance. This unexpected attack gave the mage the opportunity he needed, and Saitou urged him to channel his fire magic to burn the Demon King. And together, they unleashed the scorching flames, which finally engulfed a monstrous foe. And when the fire dissipated, a wave of relief washed over them, signaling that the Demon King had been defeated. Rielza naturally ran to hug Saitou, but before she could reach him, a startling sight stopped her. Literally, the Demon King's head held its life and charged towards them. However, the small cub attacked the head, eliminating the last remnants of the Demon King. Immediately after, the cub became enraged and began barking at Saitou and the sorcerer, accusing them of killing its father. The mage sensed the puppy's pain and carefully picked it up, allowing it to smell its scent. And somehow, the familiar scent seemed to calm the puppy, as the wizard's energy reminded her of her father's. And the old man, moved by the loss of the little creature, made a bold decision. He poured some of his life energy into the lifeless form of the wild dog, and despite the protests of his companions, the wild dog slowly came back to life, waking up to see his puppy crying by his side. The wizard's doing so affected his power, which caused him to pass out from exhaustion. exhaustion, and after a good night's sleep, the wizard recovered completely, and he even returned to causing trouble among the guests and staff of the inn. Later, Rielza and Saitou head to the top of the labyrinth, climbing up to a privileged spot where they can have a beautiful view. And it is at this moment that Rielza shares something very special about herself. She tells Saitou that while he was resting, she found herself talking to a stray dog they met on the way. And for someone as reserved as Rielza, this seems out of the ordinary. But then she explains that the dog reminded her of a wolf cub she once knew. In her early years, Rielza spent 3 winters with that wolf cub, surviving hard times together. And because of that, she believes she is not good at dealing with people. And because Saitou accepts her the way she is, she tells him that she values his presence very much. And Saitou ends up letting slip that he needs her in his life more than anyone else in this world. And just as the romance between them starts to grow stronger, the dwarf runs towards them, and his voice completely breaks the romance. He says that he needs Saita's help, and he urgently pulls him away while leaving Rielza alone on the roof. Later, when the chaos calms down, Saitou meets with the wizard in a quiet room. He brings out a small jar of honey and offers it to the wizard. The simple treat provides a rare respite from the wizard's antics. A short time later, Saitou seeks out Rielza again, this time with a carefully crafted gift, a sturdy, spun weapon he has made especially for her. Upon examining it, she notices a small hairpin cleverly attached to the weapon's handle. She removes the hairpin and places it in her hair, acknowledging his gesture. Their next journey brings them face to face with a magical beast, a manticore whose appearance bears a striking resemblance to the wizard's. Rielza takes down the creature with a single blow, seemingly having grown much stronger since then, all thanks to the trust that has developed between her and Saitou. Later, Saitou prepares a bath for Lafa. She is happy to have a little bath to relax and have fun. Later, the two end up falling asleep due to exhaustion, and the next day, when they wake up, Lafa is no longer a little fairy. She has grown to the size of a human. After some time, the two go for a walk together, where Lafa is jumping with joy because she has returned to her normal size, which indicates that her curse has been broken. Suddenly, Saitou gives her a beautiful cloak, but she refuses to accept it because she does not have any gold coins to give to Saitou. But Saitou says that it is a gift. Lafa then puts on the cloak and starts running happily, but suddenly she bumps into a bandit. The bandit walks towards her in an intimidating manner and starts messing with her, but Saitou intervenes to protect her. The bandit looks at Saitou and asks if he was the one who found the new door to the labyrinth, and mocks him for being a complete wimp while his teammates are very strong. He yells at Saitou to stop acting like a big man just because he is a little famous, and then prepares to punch Saitou. But Saitou quickly grabs his arm and twists it, making him fall face down on the ground, and begs Saitou to let him go. Later, Lafa returns to her normal size, and a while later, everyone looks at the container in which she took a bath and turned her into a human. Soon, she doesn't come to his rescue again, and tells him that the wizard has many strange things that make fairies return to their normal size for a while, and this must be one of the items. After that, Saitou starts a handyman business in this new world, and slowly his business begins to become successful, and finally Saitou realizes that in this world he is a great handyman who is loved by everyone.